see him cross this street, probably in the alleyway. Just walking down. When I turn to go put my stuff up, they don't come out at Noble. I get my stuff to go, and I move my pickup around back, and they're hanging around like the back over there. You know where the bar, like where TGC is and stuff? They're hanging around over there. I don't know what they're doing. So Joaquin finds him. Joaquin stops him. He's like, I don't have to tell y'all anything. I said, dude, it's like, you're being detained. You know, hold on. I said, what is, you give me your ID. He's like, I ain't giving you my ID. I don't have it. I said, okay, what's your name, date of birth? And he said, I don't have to tell you. Something like that. I said, all right, go ahead, turn and put your hands behind your back. I'll take you in for failure to identify. Like, you're being detained. Like, I don't know. I was fixing to tell Joaquin. Like, you know, if we kind of get a situation where we can go over there to TGC and see what's going on and make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary. He's like, we're just out walking, man. We just walk every day. Okay, that's cool. But how much crap goes on in these alleys, Jared? So, he wouldn't turn around and put his hands behind his back. So he got the old jerk, kick your feet off from underneath you right in front of his kid. I hate to be that way. 4th of July, you know what I mean?
Officer Goodwin admits to his fellow officer that he kicked Mr. Sexton's feet out from under him, despite previously telling Mr. Sexton that he did not throw him down.
I didn't even throw you down, if you want to know the truth.
You know, roll me on the ground, sir.
As we have discussed many times before here on ATA, whether an officer's use of force is constitutionally quote-unquote excessive under the Fourth Amendment is governed by the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor, where the Supreme Court determined that claims of excessive force by law enforcement should be analyzed under the Fourth Amendment's so-called objective reasonableness standard, and established 3 factors for courts to consider when determining the constitutionality of a use of force: the severity of the suspected crime, whether the suspect posed an immediate threat, and whether the suspect was actively resisting or attempting to flee. Now, it should be noted that while it is likely that a court would conclude that Officer Goodwin did not have the necessary probable cause to arrest, or even the necessary reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Sexton, as the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals explained in the 2007 case of Cortez versus McCauley, quote, the excessive force inquiry evaluates the use of force used in a given arrest or detention against the force reasonably necessary to effect a lawful arrest or detention under the circumstances of the case. Thus, in a case where police effect an arrest without probable cause or a detention without reasonable suspicion, but use no more force than would have been reasonably necessary if the arrest or the detention were warranted, the plaintiff has a claim for unlawful arrest or detention, but not an additional claim for excessive force. In other words, to determine whether Officer Goodwin's use of force was constitutionally excessive, we must assume that he had probable cause to arrest Mr. Sexton for refusing to identify himself, and then determine whether the force he used would be excessive under those circumstances. So applying the Graham factors to this situation, Mr. Sexton was suspected of, at most, a non-violent misdemeanor, and there was no evidence to suggest that he posed any sort of physical threat to the officers or anyone else. And while Mr. Sexton did refuse several orders to quote-unquote turn around, and arguably passively quote-unquote resisted arrest by taking a few steps back from Officer Goodwin, he did not outright flee, actively resist arrest, or physically fight Officer Goodwin in any way. And Officer Goodwin did not attempt to use any intermediate levels of force before throwing him to the ground. As such, Mr. Sexton would have a strong argument that, in addition to not being justified by reasonable suspicion or probable cause, the force used against him was also, quote-unquote, objectively reasonable, and therefore, quote-unquote, excessive under the Fourth Amendment.
I mean, why is he out 6 o'clock in the morning just kidding? He says he gets up every morning at 4 and walks around. You ever seen him? Me neither.
No, I call out.
Yeah. I don't think I'm out of the scope of my job, do you?
I mean, we've been told to edge patrol because of issues in the alleys, and now we're taking out somebody that's in the
Yeah, exactly.
We got break-ins, we got graffiti, reports of drug stuff.
He's got warrants out of Woods, Custer case. Yeah. This guy, he had weed in his car, a little bit of weed, but not enough to matter. You know this guy at all?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't.
Is this the guy that Travis got into it with in Canton? Is this the coins, the guy that stole the coin jar off the clothes place? Okay, man, have a good night. See? I'm not dumb, am I? People usually have warrants that don't want to.
I know, but they've been on here for 10 years.
Like they're just particular. Okay, all they are. Oh, well, here's the thing, though. Are you aware of what they're doing now? So now that I've advised you, they're all supposed to put a check mark on them or whatever. So the next time somebody checks out with you, guess what? There's a good chance you might go to jail for them. So you might want to start getting a hold of them counties to take care of it.
Yeah, you got to get a hold of them now, they say. They used to just put words out, but they said if you get a hold of them and you can't pay it, they'll work with you, not put one out. But
Yeah, but here's the
this
deal.
was from 10 years ago. That's the reason
A lot of you, a lot of you guys have strung them out so long now that they're saying, hey, guess what?
Well, this could be where the rollover is. Not too sure.
Alright, man.
A lot of state
Stuff you're
police
gonna
and
be
everything up
walking
there.
around. That's fine, but we've literally been put on extra patrol in the alleyways, so that's why you got checked out with. And if you
See what they got going on up there. We got all kind of stuff up here. Fire trucks. That's where the truck, I guess, rolled over at. That truck is messed up. Whatever's left of it, anyway. Alright, guys. Open road after that. This